When the going gets rough, you know how the saying goes. Sometimes things happen. Life happens, and it's not always our fault. In this podcast, we'll feature real-life testimonials from people like you, from good times to bad, funny memories and hard lessons learned. Everyone has a story, and everyone has been there. From business owners to parents to young adults, the Hive Five aims to tell stories of overcoming the struggles of adulting while celebrating the little victories of life. In each podcast, our guests will give insight to 5 key takeaways from someone who's been there and done that, leaving you better than when you started. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Kagan with BriteBee, and today we have a special guest. His name is Keith Tilghman with Tilghman Family Insurance Agency, located in Edmond, Oklahoma. How are you, Keith?
I'm doing great, Kagan.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being on today. We've had some struggles with technology with our podcast, and Keith was one of our first people we asked to help us with this, and he was so gracious to do that. And then we had to reschedule on him and work through some different tech problems. So thank you so much for your patience.
Not a problem.
So Keith, tell me a little bit about your agency. You're located in Edmond, Oklahoma. And tell me about what products you offer and what kind of client you're looking for.
We're an independent agency, so we work with many different companies, and we do home, auto, business insurance, boat, motorcycle, a lot of the business, general liability, work comp. So a lot of areas that we cover. And our typical customer, I would say, is probably mid-age, 35 to 50, okay. Generally has a family.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about the type of companies that you represent. So maybe some of the reputable companies, the names of the reputable companies maybe that you represent, or some that really stick out to you.
SafeCo, Travelers, Mercury, Progressive, and Progressive's Home Insurance, ASI. And then another one, AR, American Risk Insurance. Those are primarily the big ones that we do business with. Okay. And sometimes, do you feel like that the customers sometimes get a little leery when they hear some of these names that maybe they haven't heard of as much in Oklahoma or the Texas area? How do you describe that to them, and how do you help them understand that these are very reputable companies? Maybe they just don't have billboards everywhere, and also don't have commercials everywhere, and spending millions and millions of dollars on all of that. Typically my experience has been you'll have customers ask you about it, and I assure them from my standpoint. I mean, there's companies that I have my personal insurance with that I may tell them, hey, I have my insurance with ASI, and, so I trust them and I believe in them. Sometimes I'll tell them the financial aspects, like they're an A+ rated company, which means, what that means. And typically if I just give them kind of a sense that I'm comfortable, most of the time the customers I've dealt with have felt comfortable from there. And I'll be honest with them. I mean, if there's somebody that I'm like, well, this is a new company I'm just started dealing with, then I'll tell them that as well. And it's just a matter of, relaying the facts, the information about a company, and telling them you stand behind it, and you've always got me as an advocate. If you get in a claim situation, I'm there to help you as well.
So transparency is definitely something that I believe, from talking to you and also having a little bit of experience with you, with my sister, actually. She found you on BriteBee, and we are so thankful for. But transparency is a big deal for you, and honesty. But you didn't begin in this industry, correct? You didn't start out in insurance. You started out in some other industry, and I want to know a little bit about why you decided to go into an industry that sometimes is not looked at as the most transparent industry.
I started in retail, and I was in retail for 29 years, 27 with the same company. And my job there was to engage with people, to be a teacher, and I felt like as I got to a point where I wanted to make a career change, felt like that could still be something that I did with insurance, where I engaged people and taught them a little bit about insurance. I mean, I don't think I realized the reputation that insurance had at the time.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes people look at it bad, but my job is to help them with the lack of understanding they have with insurance, and to be engaging and teaching and kind of using a consultative type approach where I'm asking questions and getting answers, and teaching them the ins and outs of insurance. And not that they'll remember it, but at the end of my conversations, generally I'll tell them, now I know you're not going to remember all this, but You've got my phone number, and I'm here to help you, when you do have questions.
Right. And I think as well, they may not remember what you said, but they remember that you said something. And I think that is so important. And it seems that you have a passion for serving and interacting with people, definitely from what I can tell and talking to you over the last weeks. So tell me about how you make the most of this passion through your work and your agency.
Well, and it's a simple thing that probably many people do, but the first thing I do is listen. I listen to the customer, find out what they're wanting, ask them questions. And beyond insurance, I go into different things. I ask them if they have kids, what kind of work they do, do they have pets? I mean, I get into more of a personal relationship building, and really just talk about it. Like if it's before the 4th of July, like it was the other day, I'll ask somebody, oh, do you have plans for the holidays or, weekend or whatever the situation may be, and listening to what they say, and then just following up with their conversation or their concerns. I can tell you an example. Just this morning, I had a customer who put our name out to recommend to her followers, and she has like 140,000 followers on Facebook. Wow. She did a live video, and she was speaking about her products and her services, and she mentioned us because we had sent a card to her husband whose brother had passed away, and we just, through listening to her and hearing her, we reacted, sent out a card telling them we were thinking about them. And so then we get the exposure of 140,000 people just by being caring and listening and then following up with that.
So you're telling me that listening is extremely important, and it's, though you aren't trying to market anything, I don't believe you were trying to market anything at that point. Just having a relationship with someone, it actually benefited you later down the road in your business. Now, that's not always how it works, but that's really unique and also encouraging that you can have a relationship with people and you can spend and invest time. You also sometimes can reap some benefits from it as well.
Yeah, and I've seen it quite a few times, but it's really first about having that relationship with customers. When they decide if they have a small increase, if they're going to stay or go with me, they're going to look at that relationship they have and value that. And it's invaluable to have that relationship.
You're absolutely right. But Keith, the deal is that anyone listening to this, I know that people are thinking it takes a lot of time to listen, right? And I am so busy. How do I continue to listen? What keeps me motivated to continue down that path of listening? Because it's so easy to lose track of that, correct?
Yeah, it is. But I mean, to me, I've just gotten into a habit. Part of it was my former career and saying, listening to people and hearing their ideas, hear their thoughts, and engaging with them. I can't engage somebody if I'm talking about what I want to talk about. I have to engage them on what they're wanting to talk about. And I can't do that through any other way than listening. You're absolutely right.
So one of the things that I've said to many people is there's this saying that you've got to keep your personal and your business separate. And honestly, I don't believe in that at all. I think that what you do in your personal life will overflow into your business life. And it's a daily thing. It's very difficult to keep those things separate because it's so much a part of your day every day. So would you say that you strive to practice that listening and the relationship building outside of work, or is this really just a strategy that you use inside?
I think it's outside of work too. I'll tell you honestly, I mean, in the past, I'm a pretty private person, and it was hard for me to loosen up and to open up to people. But I'm doing a better job of that now on Facebook and media and outside of work, where, people want to know I'm a real person. Right. So what is it that makes me a real person? I have a dog, I have kids, I have grandkids, and I can talk about them, and that lets them know that I'm no different than they are, and that I'm a real person. I just happen to do insurance, but it's part of that building a relationship that they can relate to me and I can relate to them. That makes a difference in the long term.
True. So what would you say some of your biggest challenges are in your agency, and how you grow your agency, and also just dealing with customers?
The biggest challenge for all of us is finding the people to build the relationship with, finding somebody that is willing to take the time, and maybe they're happy with where they're at in insurance, and how do we break into a relationship that they may already have. So finding those people, and then starting that process of listening and caring, and building that relationship from there. BriteBee is something I think positions us well to start that in a different way. But I think I've got to have 10 or 12 different ways of finding those people and getting a couple from each different area that's going to allow me to talk to them.
And you make such a good point right there, of that you're going to have multiple channels. And that's one thing that we, to be completely honest, we're working and striving to communicate that to our BriteBee agents, and helping them understand that we are a tool in their tool belt, and we want to price it as that. We want it to be effective for them and valuable, but at the same time, first off, that takes time. The other thing is that there are many more channels out there that you've got to have your hand in to make sure that you're reaching many different groups of people, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I think having that reach of different people, you got to have that. That's critical to your growth.
What would you say the biggest misconception or misunderstandings regarding insurance or agents that you would say consumers have towards you or other insurance companies?
Well, honestly, I could say pick one. There's so many that people have, but I'll give you two that you deal with every day. People call in, they want insurance for their car, and you talk to them and they want full coverage. What's full coverage? Full coverage is that anything that they have go wrong with their car is going to be covered. So it's a perception of what full coverage means to each person, and finding out what that means and defining it for that customer. But that's a misconception that, I've got full coverage on my car. And then the other that you hear quite often is people asking, well, can't you get this lower in price? We typically don't control that pricing mechanism. That's more the carrier, whether it be a captive carrier like Allstate or State Farm, or whether it be independent carriers like SafeCo and Travelers. They set their pricing based on their risk, and so we don't have a magic button that we can push and take off $60 for the 6 months and make it $10 a month cheaper. Right. So that's part of our communication, is that we have to make sure they get all the discounts that they qualify for, but other than that, the pricing is not something that we set, and we're trying to take advantage of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we don't have much more time, but I want to talk to you and ask you, as we ask all of our guests on the podcast, the 5 takeaways from being an insurance agent and using business as an avenue for caring for people. What would those 5 takeaways be for you?
The first one I think is important, is find an agent that you can trust and share with them things about you, what assets you're trying to protect, who you are, what you've got going in your life. Because if somebody's closed and don't share with us, hey, I've got this painting or this jewelry or ring that's $20,000. I had a customer one time that had a $90,000 Rolex that they didn't share with me.
Oh my.
What kind of impact that can have on their lives. So find somebody you can trust and then share with them. The second thing is visit with your agent and insurance professional and discuss how you choose your liability limits, whether it's on your home or car, boat, motorcycle, whatever it is. What caused you to choose the limits that you have? Was it just what you hear people have? Was it to be compliant with the state? Because it's not always going to serve you the best if you're not looking at what the liability limits really need to be. Third, I think reviewing your policies on an annual basis with your agent. Everybody gets so busy in their life that they don't have time, but taking that 5-10 minutes to stop and to review with your agent, let them know, I guess kind of fourth, let them know what's changed in your life. I've added on to my house, but I didn't tell my agent. So if something were to happen, I'm not fully covered because what I added onto my house raised the value of my home $20,000, $30,000, and I don't have coverage for that much more.
Very true.
And then I think fifth is to really stop and think about, at the time of an accident or tragedy, do you ask yourself, did I get the cheapest price, or do you ask yourself, am I covered? Because I think there's the moment of truth. It's not what I paid on a monthly basis, but when something happens, am I covered? So I think those 5 things are things that I would definitely have people think about and really, take them to heart and say, am I looking at this? Do I trust my agent, and am I covered? Not, I paid the cheapest because I got it in the 15 minutes that they gave me.
Right.
But, my car's not covered.
Right.
So
it definitely pays off in the end to have that security, knowing that you've been taken care of and you've taken care of your insurance needs before that time comes. And hopefully it never does. But as we know from being in the insurance world, it usually does at some point. And so something always good to consider. Keith, how do our consumers reach you, and what is the best way to find you?
You can Google us, Tilghman Family Insurance, or our website is twfgok.com, which is the Woodlands Financial Group, Oklahoma.com. Our phone number, 405-757-1933. So any of those ways, those 3 different ways you can reach us and get in touch with us, and we'll start the process of building a relationship.
That is so great. Well, Keith, thank you so much for being on today. And anyone who is looking to also learn more about Keith, you're more than welcome to go to BriteBee.com, look through our agent directory page, and type in Keith Tilghman, and you will find him there with a great bio and also additional information regarding him. Keith, have a wonderful day, and everyone listening, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.